I was living in Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo, right on the Rwandan border. It was 1997. And I had decided to go with a friend of mine, Nicole, who was Swiss and taller than me and blonde and blue-eyed, who everybody swore we looked like twins because all us white people look alike. And we had decided to go to Kinshasa for a bit of a change of scenery. And there was a lot better shopping in Kinshasa. And it was like Goma kind of was a one-horse town. So we get on Congolese Airlines, which you always did with a bit of trepidation because the planes were very old and questionably maintained. And they were always almost empty, even though they were these giant planes because they were full of cargo. So we get on the plane, and there's like literally like 5 or 10 people on this whole giant Boeing, and I sit down, and as we are readying for takeoff, the flight attendant, this young woman, comes over and sits down like right next to me. And I'm looking around the plane going, why the fuck is she sitting right next to me? But I'm like, okay, settle in, okay, I'm cool, right? And she's like, Congolese women have I'm from Texas, we have a very different definition of personal space than with Congolese women. They have this beautiful intimacy and they're like right next to each other and they're like petting. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so uncomfortable. I'm crawling out of my skin. And she's like looking at my earrings and admiring my earrings and like touching my hair. And I'm like, I'm gonna die. But she's sitting right next to me. And she's like, and I realized very soon that she actually has an agenda, a very serious agenda. She had looked at me and she says, you're married, right? And yes, at the time I was married. And she says, how is it that you European women space your children apart? Did I mention I was Texan? Like, we don't talk about this shit. Like, but I realized suddenly that I have a very important, like, serious task on my hands. And so I'm like, okay, I need to, what techniques are available to her? And I as quickly as I can, just, say, okay, well, this is what you need to know. And like, you could this and this. And so I give her all the wisdom that I can in a short period of time. And then we take off and then she goes and does her thing, and we land, and I spend my days there, and we're getting things, and like we go and buy plants, and we've got we look like we're ready to start a wet market. It's ridiculous. And so we've got baskets of plants, and we go to my friend had decided that she wanted to have fresh eggs. And in Goma, the chickens that we could find were these really pathetic, like scrawny looking things, and they're not cute to have running around your yard, And I had friends in Kinshasa that had these darling little chickens with the feathers on their feet, And so we decided it would be much more fashionable to have these, feather-footed chickens in Goma. And so our next task was, our friends was like, sure, you could have, a few chickens. So we go to this house, we collect 4 chickens, and we get home, and the next task is, okay, how are we going to get these chickens on the plane back to Goma? Because it's not a short flight. I mean, it's a long flight. And we settle on a Pampers box. So we get this Pampers box, and the 4 chickens are quite happy in the Pampers box. So we're like, this is great. We're going to be fine. And we poke holes in the top of the Pampers box, and we put some tape across the top for a handle, and we're like, yeah, we got it. This is, no problem. So we head to the airport on the day, and we've got our plants in baskets, like we've got these birds of paradise, like we just look ridiculous, and we stick out like sore thumbs. And we're walking through the airport, and it's just chaos, and it's hot, and it's like sweltering. And we get to security, right? And I realize I have to put the Pampers box through the X-ray machine with the chickens. And like, we want eggs from these chickens, right? Like, I'm like, how much radiation is in the airport security in the Congo? It's like 100 years old, I'm like, oh God. And I'm like, worried about the chickens too, obviously. But, put the Pampers box on the belt. And it starts going through, and I'm walking through the metal detector and like watching the monitor, going, "Oh God, I hope they don't move," and hoping also that the security doesn't like pay much attention. And I make it through the metal detector, and I get off the other side, and I grab my Pampers box before they start to engage me, and I'm like, I'm gonna see you, and go to the gate. And then they call our flight, and we have to walk across the tarmac to the flight. And I'm like, I'm almost home free. I've almost got this. I've got my plants. I got my chickens. And I'm headed for the staircase up the flight, and there's two staff standing there. And as I approach, quickly I notice, oh, one of the staff is the young woman from the flight over. And she recognizes me, and she's like, oh, madame. And then she looks at my Pampers box, and I'm like, fuck. And she goes, ah, mais madame. She's like, you don't have children? And I'm just like, I know there's nothing I can say. And so I just shrug my shoulders and smile. And fortunately, she lets me walk past her, and I board the plane. And that's how we smuggled our chickens back to Goma. Thank you.